So hey folks, thank you so much for joining. I'm Michael Krasilovsky with Team K Realty, and we are here today with Michael Beachley, one of the owners of 1105 Northwest Buchanan Avenue. And this is going to be a really interesting property, as you can see, because Michael and Sandra and their family have lived here for decades. They're one of the only owners of this property, and it is right in the heart of Corvallis on over an acre. And as you can also see in the marketing materials, it's also a possible development opportunity, not that's what you necessarily need to do with it. So we're going to hear Michael talk a little bit about the stories and history of the home, some of the grounds, and what it's like living in this neighborhood. And we'll add this in as one of the supplemental tours alongside the actual professional video tours. So thank you for checking this out. So Michael, where should we start? Could you tell us a little bit about the history of this house and really the story of the land claim, if that's the right verbiage even?
I think that's fair. This land originally belonged to the Kalapuya Indians, of course. And directly west of us is the hill called Mary's Peak, which used to be called Chintimony in the Native American language. This is part of a land claim of 1856, of which there were four that made up the original village of Corvallis. See if I can remember the names. Mulkey, Avery Park, you probably heard that one, and Johnson, and Dixon, William F. Dixon. 1856 was the year of the land claims. It even precedes Oregon State University, as a matter of fact. There were 640 acres, and over the years, those acreages were broken off into plots of land. Neighborhoods were platted out. The high school across the street here, Corvallis High School, was the land there was a gift from the Dixon family. And this house was built in 1936. I think they started construction probably in 1934. Mr. Dixon's great-granddaughter was Esther Taylor. And she married a gentleman named Dick Hoyt, and Dick Hoyt owned Campus Cleaners, which was, I think it was Kings and Monroe, right across the street from Oregon State University.
Sure.
And he built this house for her. And so she inherited the property down from William F. Dixon. And so she and her husband lived here until 1985 when she passed. And we purchased it from her family. There was two boys. And so we are essentially only the second owners after Native American ownership. The house was the only one in the entire neighborhood at the time. The circular driveway that you can see on the map, or if you see it in person, was actually a turnaround for what was known in those days as County Road number 11. And they were all dirt roads or gravel roads or whatever. Eventually, a smart person in the Dixon family decided that one of the things they could do to encourage development was to break off a large chunk of land and donate it to Corvallis School District 509J, which is right across the street. Many, many acres of land over there. And of course, people want to live around a school. And so that encouraged people to purchase properties in this area. So he built this property. Now, before the house was built in the 30s, back in the 20s, when they were talking about what do we do with this land, they actually created Buchanan, the avenue, Buchanan, James Buchanan. And remember that all of the presidents are lined up in the streets according to when they were elected. Sure. Except for President Bika. Now that's a joke, because after you get past President Lincoln, the next one is Grant, and President Johnson, who was impeached, never got on the map. So anyway, they were developing Buchanan And I brought here today this plat map of what Buchanan looks like in those days. And they had an idea that it would be probably as windier than the crookedest street in the world in San Francisco, all the way from 9th Street up to Kings Road. Didn't end up that way, but it's kind of a nice historical piece just to be able to look at that.
And we'll zoom in on that on this screen.
Yeah,
Michael,
that'll
so
be
people are
it.
seeing
Yeah. See how curly it really is. But
this has been in the house for decades. Last time I saw it was upstairs, I think, in storage, and it was like, oh, this needs to be part of what we show people.
Oh yes, and it stays with the property. So it probably could use some reframing, but it's an historical document, and there are a few others with this property as well. The Hoyt boys planted a lot of the trees around this property, including the incense cedar, which is on the west property line, early on, way back in probably in the late 30s then. And cedars grow all the way down to the ground. And there is a copse of cedars, about 7 or 8 of them all together, and they create a kind of a cathedral inside. It's dry, it's warm in the wintertime, and nobody can see what's going on there. And high school kids have often come on over and hidden in there and done unspeakable things in there as high school. I certainly did when I was a kid, but you know, I kind of let it go and tried not to be a bad guy about it. And then I discovered a couple of decades later that one of them became a police officer and another one was on the city council and another one sold insurance and so on. So the point is that those trees on the west side of this property took care of young kids before those young kids became human beings.
And so that's what a group of cedars is called, is a copse?
A copse. Any group of trees of the same kind that's together, a small group of trees is called a copse, C-O-P-S-E, a copse of trees.
So it's not just called that because the copse...
No, it's actually, it's actually a viticulture term.
Gotcha.
Silviculture term. So anyway, I started writing a novel about those trees because there was something sacred about the relationship between those trees and young adolescent kids and those trees taking care of those kids without making any judgments whatsoever, and those kids being allowed to grow up and become productive human beings in this culture.
Love it.
Yeah, it is very interesting. The house is on almost 1 1/4 acres. There's a well in the house, and it's grandfathered in. It is not for the house itself, but for agricultural irrigation purposes.
Right, just to be clear, the house is
It's on
serviced
city water.
by city water and city sewer, but there is a well for irrigation purposes.
For irrigation, and you know, that well is an old one, of course, but the fact that it's grandfathered in means that it could be brought up to date and developed that way. There's lines going all around the property for irrigation purposes, and you just stick the hose in there and move it all around. When we came, it had been neglected in terms of landscaping. We did a lot of landscaping ourselves, put in a lot of rhododendrons and arborvitae and so on, and we built a boathouse so that we could back our fishing boat in there, and right next to it park our camper and so on, like that. Downstairs is a full basement, 2 large rooms where one of the rooms acts as a laundry room with an extra stove and oven and some shelves for canning and that sort of thing, and a very old-timey fruit drying box. And that's what that big box is down there. That goes with the house, it should. The second room, which is a little different, is a wine cellar. And I collect wines, or I used to. I'm too old to start collecting them anymore. Now's the time when you drink them.
Cheers to that,
Cheers
Michael.
to that. But It was concrete sides in the on the walls downstairs. And I was, for many years, an associate athletics director, and one day I looked out of my office and they were tearing up the bleachers of the old Parker Stadium, which is now Reeser Stadium, of
Yes.
course. And they were taking out all of the wood, which was not incense cedar, but Port Orford pine or fir or something. Beautiful, beautiful scented wood, but had been sat on for years and stamped with seat numbers and everything. They were taking it out, piling it up, and I said, "What are you going to do with that?" They said, "I'm throwing it away." I said, "Can I have some?" They said, "Yes." I brought a truck, got all of that wood, took it downstairs, cut it, and lined those concrete walls with those 2x6 gorgeous, gorgeous pieces of wood. So you can go down there and you can see the numbers. And then I built wine shelves for there, enough to hold 350 bottles of wine, if you happen to be interested.
A starter collection.
A starter collection, yes, yeah. And there was this glorious, beautiful scent, aroma of freshly cut evergreen wood and numbers all over the place. And the thing about it is, in the summertime, in the wintertime, it absorbs moisture, and in the summertime releases moisture and keeps the environment down there at about 55 degrees, 56 degrees year round, which is perfect for a wine cellar. So we did that for a while. Upstairs is, you could say it's a bonus room, but it really is a nice bedroom suite with a bathroom and 1, 2, 3 walk-in closets.
Yes, a lot of storage.
A lot of storage in there, and let me tell you, over the years, we've put a lot in those storages. When we started moving, we opened boxes that we hadn't opened for 40 years, so be careful. It's a trap. But it's lovely up there. It's very quiet, and the windows open right out into the back where you can see the beautiful lawn. And years ago, we built a redwood deck out there, solid 2x6 redwood deck, about 400, 500 square feet of wood out there. It's just beautiful. And so you get an idea of what the house looks like.
And that redwood deck, sorry to interrupt you, is actually being refinished. Regrettably, it was not completed being refinished when we had our first photography session, but we'll be sure to update at some point, or when you get here in person, of course, you'll see just how gorgeous that redwood is.
Yeah, solid redwood, and a lot of power spray to get used. And I've done it a number of times. It's just something that has to be done occasionally, and here was a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
So we've lived here for 40 years almost. Our kids were just little people at the time, and they went to Garfield Elementary and Franklin Elementary, and ultimately went to Corvallis High School and graduated there. And then they got married and had kids, and our grandkids love this place. This is Mom and Poppy's home, and so they were coming in and out all of the time, and still know this place very, very, very closely.
Speaking of schools for a moment,
yes,
or kids,
yeah.
We'd be remiss if we didn't mention that we're not only right across the street from Corvallis High School, but also down the street from Franklin K-8 School.
That's right.
So
yes,
you've got the entire gamut, and we're, if I recall correctly, I think it was 0.9 miles to Oregon State University. We'll have to double check. It's on all the marketing materials.
It's less than a mile, that's for darn sure. And of course, the bus stop is right out here as well. Garfield Elementary, I think that's changed now. I don't remember the new name. And the middle school up here as well are very, very close. They're in walking distance, so that our kids, when they were young, got to walk to school. How's that for Americana, huh? Walking to school. And so, yeah, that's kind of the neighborhood. In the afternoon, when the kids leave, you can see a lot of activity on the street. This house is very solid, so you don't hear too much, even though they're right outside. I mean, it's almost half a block away from the street, but you can see them out there. It's just gorgeous to watch those kids be kids. And living here in 40 years, we've had 40 cycles. 40 cycles of high school kids coming by, and we've got to see the routines, the rhythms, and so on. It's been fun doing that for all those years. On the east side is a little orchard. I planted apple trees and cherry trees out there, and they are the best cherries in the world. The apples, I've got Granny Smith apples. There's a pear tree out there that I make about 20 jars of pear butter every year. Lovely pear butter. I have more pear butter than I have time to eat. We used to have a really beautiful plum tree. The plum tree is still out there, but it doesn't produce fruit. And because a number of years ago, the second plum tree failed, and I took it out and never planted one, and that was all before I realized you got to have 2 plum trees.
Takes 2 to tango.
Takes 2 to tango. But the tree, I've had many conversations with that tree over the years, and when I neglect it and I am mowing around it, it reaches down with branches and it scratches the top of my head. And I apologize, and I promise to do better. But you know, it's that kind of experience that you have living in a place like this for so long.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The city comes by once in a while and trims the oak trees because there are power lines and cables and so on. And they invariably tell me how gorgeous and how beautiful these trees really are. There's 2 of them now. There used to be 3, but one of them failed about 25 years ago and collapsed, and we had to clean it up. I got 40 cords of chopped wood out of it.
40.
40. It took me a long time, but it kept me in shape. Yeah. So that's kind of our property. It's a beautiful property. Years ago, early 90s, I believe it was, we decided to take a wall out between the kitchen and the dining room. And because, you know, people are into open space and a cooking island and so on. And so we took that wall out and redeveloped it, and that meant the ceilings, the floors, the whole works, and put in oak cabinetry. That was 25 years ago. I still know the craftsman who did it. He does an absolutely wonderful job of doing that. The upside is we have this beautiful dining room and kitchen together. The downside is that we're no longer eligible for historical property because we made structural changes and so on in the property.
Okay.
But that's fine. That wasn't important to me. And so that's our property. It's a beautiful place. We have lovely neighbors. All of them are sweet, sweet people. And we have an annual neighborhood gathering, usually at this property and sometimes at another one. But we get to know each other, and we look out for each other, and we watch each other's kids grow up and chase each other's dogs down the street and so on. One more thing. This is definitely a deer refuge.
It's the local gangs,
Yeah.
right? Let's have some real talk, right? The local gangs are the deer and the turkeys.
That's right.
Yeah.
No turkeys.
No turkeys here.
No turkeys here, but deer, possum, raccoons, and ducks. There used to be ducks. The ducks would come over from Dixon Creek, William F. Dixon, land claim, 1850s. The ducks would come over across the street, and I befriended the ducks. And then Mama Duck brought over one year, the first year, brought over her hatchlings. The hatchlings imprinted upon me. And so I became like a relative of the ducks. And so that brought in more and more and more, and they would fly and land on my arms and eat off my hands, and they knew me and I knew them, and it was really lovely until we got a beautiful boxer dog, and that was the end of the ducks. And so they went away.
I can imagine you outside like a Disney princess covered in
Well,
ducklings.
yeah, it was ducks everywhere. My wife has a video of it. She cracks up every time she sees a video of me and the ducks. But that's the kind of, and the deer, the deer come down to this area down Dixon Creek, William F. Dixon, 1856 land claim. Come down here, and when they get to Buchanan, I have no doubt they stop, take a left turn, and said, come on, down here, lunch is over here at the Beachley, at the White House, is lunch. And they came in, and my gardens, we share them. Oh, excuse me. The deer share the gardens with us.
Yeah.
But they are very tame, and we don't bother them, and they're lovely to see, and it's kind of, brings you back down to what's really important on the planet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've got a home here that is truly special, and I appreciate you taking the time to share some of the stories about it with us. And refresh my memory so I don't mess up this particular accolade. Mm-hmm. It was something to the effect of, was this the second home that was actually built as part of that Dixon land claim? Or am I just misremembering?
In terms of the whole 640-acre land claim?
Yeah, what am I thinking of? There was something we had talked about way back when. I know I have it in my notes somewhere.
Well, this was, I don't know what other buildings were. This was the first one built in this particular area.
Okay.
And that was still in the family's ownership.
Gotcha.
And so this qualifies as the last piece, I guess, of the William F. Dixon land claim that was still in the family.
Gotcha.
There may have been others. 640 acres is a big area. But north of us was an airstrip and a cow farm, milk farm, and so on and so forth. That lets you know how rural this whole area was outside of the village of Corvallis, Oregon.
Yeah.
Which used to be called Marysville, by the way. Yeah.
That's right.
There you go.
So this is, I would call this a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get essentially 1.2 acres with an amazing house like this right in the heart of town. Mm-hmm. In this case, across the street from some public schools.
Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful place.
Yeah.
And, and it has the sense of being in a village. And that's what's really sweet about it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Michael, thank you. Appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Sure.
And folks, if you have any questions, simply reach out to myself and my team. We'd be happy to connect with you.
Sure, yeah. Good luck and enjoy your search.
Cheers.
Cheers.